should understand this law that affects their pocketbook, their homes, their security. John, explain the law as you understand it.
Well, I understand the law to say that the mortgagees, which are the banks, who have a estate interest in the property with a fixed certain sum of money being the mortgage, must pay taxes first, and that the assessors shall assess the tax to the bank on the amount of the indebtedness of the mortgagor and subtract that from the full assessed value prior to billing the mortgagor for his share of the estate interest as the remaining amount.
Now, John understands the law. You read the law. The assessors are supposed to understand the law, and the assessors are obligated to comply with the law, like we're obligated to comply with the law, as they say we are. All right? The assessors, let me read you the law. Let me read you the law so you understand it. And you'll read the good news. And the good news is Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 12. If any person has an interest in real estate not exempt from taxation under Section 5 as the holder of a duly recorded mortgage given to secure the payment of a fixed and certain sum of money, the amount of his interest as mortgagee shall, and the word is shall, be assessed as real estate in the town where the land lies. The assessors have to assess the mortgagee, the bank, for their interest and send them a bill. This may be shocking to you. Your trusted public servant, the assessor, mandated by the law of what to do, is sending you a bill to pay the tax of somebody else's estate interest and obligation, namely the bankers. Now, what else does the law say? Now the law says, and the mortgagor shall be assessed only for the value of such mortgage, if such estate, of the mortgage, after deducting the assessed value of the estate interest of such mortgagee. It means that the mortgagor can only be taxed for the remaining balance, if there's any, in accordance with his estate interest, which is what his equity is. His equity may be $3,000, and the property may be assessed for $75,000, and he may have a mortgage for $73,000. The bank has to pay the tax on the $73,000. Now, why are the assessors doing the banks a favor? And why aren't the assessors sending the bills the way the law say and assessing and billing the banks? Well, the average tax bill may be, in this town, North Adams, $800, $900. All right? $800 or $900 a year. You take that $800 or $900 and you put it towards the mortgage, and you would have paid off your debt in 1/3 the time. If you put that money in the bank for the whole period of the mortgage, you would have been able to send your kid to college without borrowing money for college. Now, you would also be able to probably buy a car. And that also may apply to the excise tax on your automobile. because the privilege of registering a car, you have to pay an excise tax on the value of the car. Well, the value of the car that you have may be financed. So that means the title owner, like the mortgagee is a title owner of interest in your property, would basically be responsible for their estate interest because they're the title holder of your car. That might be some more money that we got to look into for you. Now, notwithstanding the fact that if you haven't got the money when the assessor bills you to pay the taxes that you shouldn't be paying, they're also going to charge you 16% and threaten to foreclose on you and take you home under the color and authority of law, knowing that they violated the public trust and did something outside their duties and responsibilities, personally, for some political reason, against the public, against the homeowner. Now, this is a statewide movement. This doesn't only affect you. In Suffolk County, in Middlesex County, I'll be going there, and in Springfield, in Franklin County. Statewide, we're going to file a class action citizens suit, a citizen suit, to hold them accountable. The courts are uncomfortable. The attorneys are uncomfortable. John, tell them why the courts and the attorneys are uncomfortable, and why the politicians are uncomfortable, and why the assessors are uncomfortable, and why the cooperative councils of the city and town are uncomfortable. Tell them why they're uncomfortable, John.
Well, they're uncomfortable because they don't allow due process. What they've been doing is blocking access of any pro se litigant or misrepresenting the litigants with an attorney who's a part of the association, which is designed to block jury trials in the first instance. I've been dealing with the court for 7 years now, and I've had the judges make decisions against the rules, against the laws, and against the evidence. And this is something that they don't want nobody to know. They don't want anybody to understand that they're being ripped off or robbed for taxation of something that they don't even owe taxes on.
John, there's not one assessor there. This is all over the state. Now, they're all violating the law. And the banks and the attorneys that are representing people whenever they go down for an abatement or when they pass papers on a house and sign that document have stood by and let their clients get swindled.
That's right.
Is this why the attorneys are uncomfortable?
This is part of the situation where the banks had an unfair trade advantage over the individuals who did sign these mortgage contracts.
In other words, the individual went down to get a mortgage. He hired an attorney to look for his best interest. And there he was confronted now, after putting a deposit down, after getting an appraisal and paying for it, after dreaming about this house, going in with an attorney to pass papers. And they tell him, sign here.
Oh yeah, sign here, sign there. And they don't tell him.
In that contract, what did the banks do?
Well, the bank actually had them sign a part in the contract, is in the middle somewhere, and it says that the mortgagor, the signer of the paper, who's buying the property, would pay the taxes on the property. What they didn't tell them was that the taxes was actually their responsibility.
I understand why they didn't tell them. They took advantage of them. Now, what does fair trade law say? Fair trade law says you can't have trade with people unfairly. They have a fair trade law. And it says that if a person in a contract is a weaker party, the stronger party can't take advantage. Now, the bank is a stronger party here. And the weaker party is the person looking for the mortgage to buy a house. or to get a loan to improve his home. And the bank is telling them that they're going to have to sign an agreement to pay the bank's taxes. Now the law says the public policy, which is the Constitution, cannot be defeated. You cannot write a contract, a private contract with someone that is against public policy or that is a constituted fraud to take advantage of a weaker person. The consumer, in this case, 90% of the times, was represented by a lawyer. The lawyer said that he was competent to understand the law. So the person hired him to be there.
Right.
So now, what I'm trying to say, John, is that the banks knew what they were doing was unlawful. They were assigning their liability of taxation, which is a constitutionally protected right, to have proportional and equal taxes, and they were assigning it like a Shylock on a person who was begging for a loan to buy an American dream. Correct?
That's just about.
And the assessors made it an American nightmare, all right?
Sure they did.
When they sent them the bill for the bank. And their attorney charged them money and stood there and let them sign an unfair agreement. Now, the attorney said that he was qualified. He's a member of an association that certified him as qualified. That association and that attorney and those attorneys that stood idly by and made their clients sign contracts that under law is unenforceable, against the fair trade law, against consumer protection, because the bank, in the first instance, when they applied for a loan, these people never told them, well, we have a condition, you'll have to pay our taxes. All right? So, let's face it. It was a violation of 93A, which is the statute of frauds, consumer frauds. There was a violation of fair trade law. There was an attorney there that violated 93A himself by not protecting his clients and taking his clients' money. And they're all in bed. Now, why did the assessors get in bed? To do something in the bank's interest against the public.
Well, that remains to be seen. That's what we're here to find out.
Now, a grand jury should be looking at this. The Attorney General is supposed to be protecting us, but he's an attorney, he's a lawyer, he's a member of the bar. So now, we're looking at some way to hold them accountable. A citizen suit, 10 citizens, wanting their money, wanting damages, wanting a jury trial, have to join us, and that's what we're here for, statewide, to hold them accountable. So we're asking these people tonight to call in, if they don't understand it, or give us their opinion, by calling 664-4408. We'll wait for your calls. Remember, this is a statewide citizens assault, like Shays' Rebellion. Shays' Rebellion here in the Berkshire, when the farms were being overtaxed and confiscated under the color and authority of law. These people are famous for writing their own law and doing whatever they want and then telling you you can't blow your nose in a public street. Now we've got to discipline this bunch of runaway tyrannical mavericks that are privatizing our government and confiscating our properties. The tyrant king did the same thing. Shay and the farmers of Berkshire had to rebel. They went down to Springfield and they raided the armory. And there was a Shays' Rebellion here in the Berkshires. What happened to the people in the Berkshires? Have they lost that spirit? Are they going to stand idly by while they're being extorted and swindled? Or are they going to stand up and protect their children What's going to happen to their children tomorrow?
Well, the thing is right now what they're doing is they're taking away our rights one piece at a time, and they're going to socio-economically enslave us by making us live in homes that they control if they get to take away our homes from us. And this is part of the effort to take our properties from us.
You mean they've been nibbling and taking and transferring property ownership into quasi-corporations and their gangs?
Oh, sure they have. I'm a victim of that myself.
And they're using propaganda and pious principles saying they're going to help the people. And they're making them beg for rent subsidies and beg for lower taxes. Taxes that they shouldn't even have to pay. And the banks aren't paying. All right, anybody that's out there that would like to call in, dial that number, and if someone's there at the phone, will answer the phone for you. You can call in and ask any questions if you don't understand it. Now, I know it's Valentine's Day, and I know that there's romance out there, but take a little time out and listen to this, and let me tell you something. You don't want to lose your home. You want to get your money back. 3 times the damage might be $100,000, $150,000. All you have to do is to join in the class action suit. You can't get any money, you know, unless you sign an affidavit saying you have a mortgage, you own property, and you're an affected party.
That's right. We've put our complaint together. We're almost done finishing it up. We got a few more touches to do to it, and then we're going to be making the motion to join for everybody to collect these papers so that they can sign them and fill them out with the affidavit to attest to their losses and the fact that they own property in a certain county or a certain town, so that they can put their actual claim in. And in order to do that, you would have to call us at 413-663-6372 so that you can get a hold of Pro Se USA, because we're representing ourselves.
Oh yeah, well they can do that, but this is going to be re-aired on Sunday, and then it's being transferred all over the state to different cable companies, and then we're going to Suffolk County, and we're going to Middlesex County. But if you want to get your money that you've been paying in taxes back for your property, and not have to pay taxes on the bill that they sent you, you have to join in. And if you were foreclosed and your property was taken, you can get it all back. All you have to do is become a party to the complaint. And it's a citizen suit, citizen of 10, Pro Se USA is out there advocating and championing this cause for you. Now, we invite any attorney that wants to say to us that he will try to correct what's wrong. There are attorneys out there that I believe may be interested in the ethics and the law and protecting their clients. Truly protecting their clients. I know this is a political thing. Now, if there's a courageous lawyer out there that wants to take this case on a contingency, they can get 1/3 of this class action suit that amounts to millions of dollars. They can retire if they want to be honest. We can make it worthwhile. We can make it worthwhile for an attorney that has ethics to take this case in fact and law and make enough money honestly to retire and be acclaimed as a champion of the people. All he has to do is support the law and the truth. The case is won. This goes to a jury. There isn't a jury in the country that isn't going to rule against the banks. Now remember, you don't have to worry about foreclosure, because if the bank conducted an illegitimate act and contract with you, it's unenforceable, it's fraudulent, they can't foreclose. And if the city is sending you out tax bills they shouldn't be sending, the city can't foreclose. So as soon as the litigation's in, And if we're represented by an honest attorney that's come forward, all well and good. If not, we're all going to have to demand that we speak on our own behalf in the court to represent ourselves, each and every one of you. Have a right to do that. We'll assert a class action, and we'll demand a grand jury, and we'll petition the Attorney General to protect us against the assessors who acted outside their duty to violate the Constitution and civil rights of the right to own property and the right not to be taxed unfairly. Now, we'll get that Attorney General to move with a citizen suit. He should be representing the people. He should be championing this cause. Now, I'd like you to call up. I know that it's a bad time to air this program. Everybody's out there flirting with each other and eating chocolates and sweet candy. Probably chug-a-lugging or having a party, the way that everybody has parties. But homeowners that have a burden just might be looking in. Get the facts, get the law. Protect your property, protect your rights.
Now, there's a few things that people are considering here. A lot of people feel that because they are called the property owner, that all the tax on that property absolutely is theirs.
They don't own the property.
But they don't own the property.
They
That's the
think
point.
they own the property. When they gave the bank a mortgage, the bank became prior owner.
That's right.
They couldn't bang a nail in that piece of property according to that contract. They can't even paint it actually without permission of the bank. That's how bad they get wrapped in. Not only that, they're assuring the bank for the total amount or they couldn't get the money anyway.
That's right.
I mean, they don't own it.
They're just
They're
caretakers.
janitors.
That's it,
They're
caretakers.
janitors. They're over there. They put themselves in shackles and chains. And they allowed the banks to rob them. And the banks were aided and abetted by a lot of lawyers, I'm sorry to say, that sat idly by. They're supposed to know the law. I'm not supposed to tell them the law. They know what they were doing. So anyway, that's their problem. Now, if they're afraid of this suit because the banks are too powerful, the best thing that might happen here is that we find out that the banks are running the country and not the people. Better we find that out now. That we're not a republic, we're not a democracy, we don't have public servants, right? We have a bunch of people out there that aren't working for us, and we're the victims of a con job. They're pretending they love us, and they're pretending that they want to be happy with us, and they want to serve us. But all they want to do is be politically correct.
And pick our pockets.
So they can be politically corrupt. So they can take advantage of their neighbors and their trusted friends. Because if they weren't doing what they're doing, we wouldn't be here.
That's right.
I wouldn't be here. I've got other things to do.
That's right. We wouldn't have to be saying, we want our money back.
I don't know. I guess nobody's out there in town looking at this thing. Or there may be a few people out there that are afraid to call. I don't know why they should be afraid to call. They can ask any question. What do you think it is?
I don't know. I think they're worried because they've been trained. They've been trained to accept the problem as a fact of life, or as a normal, everyday occurrence, which is wrong.
You mean the people have sociologically been conditioned
to accept it,
to become masochistic? They want to be whipped?
Evidently, they're paying.
They like to get whipped?
They're paying it.
Well, they keep it up, they're going to bleed, because if they like to get whipped, there's a bunch of sadists out there running this government that will cut them up and take their blood and have them crawl. If they keep it up, and if they let people whip them, I don't know why they would be conditioned to enjoying being bilked and robbed. Now, we got a phone call, And let's see who it is. It may be someone who has a question. Hello? Yes?
I was calling. I wanted to ask a question. I was listening to your show, and I was wondering, do you have to have had your mortgage for a while? Or?
If you ever had a mortgage, even if it's paid off, and the mortgage has been paid off, and you had it for 20 years, you can sue the city and the bank that billed you illegally, and you can get triple damages.
Mm-hmm.
For all the years, plus the interest.
Because I don't quite understand it all, but I was just, wondering. And also, what about if you're not through a bank, you went through a mortgage company?
They're all the same.
Even if you went to a private lender, he's a mortgagee. He has an estate interest that's taxable under the Constitution, and the assessors are mandated. The word is shall in that statute 5912 that was up there that we had you read.
Right.
3 times it says to the assessors what they shall do. It doesn't say they may do it, they could do it. It isn't ambiguous, it's clear. It was an intentional perpetration of fraud to take advantage of weaker people by stronger people who went out and pretended that they were their friends. The banks, lawyers. And this is a disease.
Mm-hmm.
We let people in, we're kind, we're gentle.
So is it affecting everybody?
Absolutely.
Everyone that ever had a mortgage or has a mortgage has been cheated. Now, you only have to read the Constitution and the law.
Yeah.
There is no provision in law, and there's no way you, even in your mind or anybody's mind, where you could justify that the government or the state should be taxing people for their debts.
Right.
I mean, they can tax you for what you have in your pocket. They can tax you if you buy a sandwich, put a sales tax on it. But being divisive and being deceptive and being intent on bilking and extorting money from people is what made Shea and Shea's rebellion rebel against that tyranny at that time. And we've been a little lackadaisical. Now I think that churches, and I mean churches, are cognizant of this immorality and sinful business. And I can't understand why the clergy, in some cases, endorses politicians that profess to be politically correct in the favor of the people, but are politically corrupt. Because if you know 1 and 1 is 2, 2 and 2 is 4,
right.
you should know what the score is.
Mm-hmm.
These people are very intelligent people.
Right.
Now, if they're community leaders and they have ethics, and they're listening to me, I'm saying to them, you're an oxymoron. You have a bad behavior. You better confess to your deity. You follow me? Because you've been looking the other way while the people, the sheep, have been reduced to beg for their constitutional right and the right to social and economic equality. That's what's creating a lot of problems. You know,
If I wanted to know more about this, who would I contact?
you can contact Pro Se USA, ask for William Foley or John Arigoni, or leave a message. We'll get back to you by dialing 413-663-6372.
Okay, thank you.
Anytime.
All
Tell
right.
your friends and neighbors to call. We'll answer all questions. Give you copies of all papers. And I'm going to Suffolk County. There's going to be a statewide thing.
Another question that you had was how long would it go back? It could go back as far as even your parents. If they had a home and it affected your life, that they were robbed this way too, and you didn't get everything that you deserved as a child when you were growing up, you could have been affected that way, and they could be liable to you for that loss too.
Well, it's when you make the discovery of the fraud. Now you're making the discovery of the fraud. So, if you were near...
Well, we just bought a home recently.
Well, then you got a mortgage.
Right.
But
We've had it maybe 2-3 years.
Yeah. Well, if you file a complaint and you file a class action suit and you join in with this, and the bank's on notice, and if you put the bank on notice, right? you put the the city on notice. The city has to bill the bank, and then the bank's going to say to you, well, you signed a piece of paper, and you say to them, well, look, that was a fraud. I don't have to pay you. You might zero out that mortgage as damages, liquidated damages. You might wind up as damages getting that money that's on the market. You might wipe it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As liquidated damages. So I said that's the good news for you.
And then you would be only paying taxes on what you own.
And the better news is that if you go to court, we go to trial, right?
Right.
The jury's going to be sitting there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's going to be 12 of them. How many do you think have been cheated by banks in this manner? And how do you think they're going to rule when they look at the law, and the law says shall 3 times? What are they going to rule? They're going to rule for the banks, or they're going to rule for themselves, or the children? Who are they going to rule for? They're going to rule for you. They're going to give you maximum damages. The banks haven't got a chance. And the politicians are going to be exposed, all right? And that means that their bad behavior might remove them from office, because this might just be a corrupt practice. It must have been a conspiracy, because it couldn't be done by one party, right?
Right.
So therefore, we could do a great service to our children by teaching them a lesson that crime doesn't pay. We could take down a lot of so-called hypocrites, right? And expose them and do more than just going to the ballot and trying to vote for 2 political gangs that had a right to associate and became gangsters. Now, that wasn't the way this country was supposed to be formed. We can't sit idly by. It's up to you to tell your neighbors and your friends. And it's up to you to try to preserve the protected rights under the Constitution and the rule by law that your children are entitled to.
Right. Okay, well, I will get back to you.
All right, thank you for calling.
Thank you.
663-6372.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Well, we'll do what we can. Now, that woman was enlightened. I now am rewarded. I feel that now that woman's going to understand that she's been insulted, that she's been taken advantage of. And she's been working hard to pay her mortgage and her husband. And what happens is the honest people are taken advantage of. Now, she's going to learn something. And if she wants to do anything for her children, and her children's education, she should let them know how she's going to be fighting for the monies that the banks want to deny and deprive them of.
It's a pretty tough situation where they're taking away from the food right off the table from the families just to pay taxes for somebody else.
Well, if the kids are listening to this program and they know their mother's got a mortgage, they're going to think their mother's awful stupid for not taking advantage of it. So the kids not going to think too much of their mothers if their mothers don't protect their interest. Because the kids aren't stupid. The kids are looking, and they're saying, why don't these people fight for their rights? Why do they take it? Why do they take the abuse?
Well, I think it's because that they were misrepresented by their attorneys, and they trusted their attorneys to represent them properly and to protect their rights and as individuals, and to make sure that nothing was done that would financially hurt them and damage them to an extent that they never expected they were going to be paying taxes on their debts.
Well, people were conditioned to accept it. And this is what happens. They nibble at people. They take their liberty away by exercising their right to liberty, to take somebody else's liberty. And they nibble at them. But the courts should be embarrassed. Attorneys should be ashamed. The Bar Association should be ashamed of itself. These people should be ashamed of themselves. They know better. They were supposed to be educated in law. They know the Constitution. The assessors should be ashamed of themselves. Now, there are 300 some odd cities and towns There's got to be 4 or 5 assessors at each one.
Not only that, they turn around and bring all their assessments to get them verified through the Commissioner of Revenue. Now, why didn't he stop this?
Well, maybe he directed them what to do, because he certifies them. In other words, he maybe wouldn't certify them unless
They behave this way.
they ignored certain things, looked the other way. Because the law is a law, it's clear as a bell, and that's it. I don't know why anybody should think otherwise. I can't understand it. If there's somebody else out there that want to make a call, well, at least we got one call tonight. Someone happened to see it, and it'll be repeated, and they'll call 663-6372. But as it grows on and people understand this program is going to be on every week with different topics, we'll mention that on occasion they can call in for this. So it'll air again Sunday. They can tell their friends to look at it, and the friends will learn something. Then we'll try to contact them some other way, through the telephone, calling property owners and different things in this campaign. And we need volunteers to inform the people. So if there's anybody out there who would like to volunteer and join into this suit, in order to, if they have a damage, or their mother or father had a mortgage and they're going to be included, they can. If there's an attorney out there that wants to discuss this, feel free to call. If any of the assessors are out there would like to defend themselves, they can call in or have somebody else call in with an adversity or say something different. If they have any reason or any law to contradict these laws, feel free to call.
I'd like to have them come in and actually talk this over with us and have people question them right here. I think that would be a good idea.
Well, we'll invite anybody to come in here. They can sit here in the panel. It's all right. They can come right in and sit right in the panel. Sit right here and get on the mic and say, oh, now I see it, now I don't. You know? So, any of the city councilors, they want to come in, come on in, right? Now, I don't know why people haven't discovered this before. I know it was clouded and concealed, and people didn't read the law. Now the law is a funny thing. Sometimes they hide the law from you. Or they set the agenda and they change the law. Oh yeah. They like to change the law. Make new rules. Their rules. We'll bend it. We'll twist it. We'll turn it upside down. There was a song by Patti Page. Look what they did to our song, Ma. Look what they did to our song. They turned it around, tipped it upside down. Look what they did to our song, Ma. I mean, it says something. Well, we'll be moving statewide, and we'll be here next
Monday.
Next Monday, again. And next Monday, we're going to be talking about judicial accountability. Judicial accountability, the right to jury trial, the duties and responsibilities of a judge, a magistrate, according to the constitutional authority that says what their authority is and why they're been compromised and why they're in conflict as members of the profession called the American Bar Association. Their gang against the people.
That's because there's a problem with this. A lot of people were foreclosed on, and these foreclosures took place in the courtroom. So now I'm curious as to why these judges didn't understand this law and why they didn't understand the Constitution and say to the people that the bank owed the taxes and the people who are being foreclosed on shouldn't be foreclosed on. They didn't do this.
Well, here's what happens. The people have a right to answer the foreclosure. The foreclosures are contracted out to an attorney who goes up to the land court like a summary judgment. He stands there, got 100 cases of people that he's foreclosing on for not paying the taxes that the bank should pay. The people don't understand the law. They have no money, they're being foreclosed. No lawyer represents them, even though they're right? Right. And they go to the land court. And if somebody goes up to the land court themselves to defend themselves, the land court doesn't even record the proceedings. And the judge won't even listen to them. He'll just say, why didn't you pay the taxes? Even though the land court is supposed to tell the attorney to tell the bank that the bank as mortgagee has got to pay their taxes at the time of foreclosure.
Correct.
Otherwise, the bank gets wiped out. And 9 times out of 10, when the banks have a mortgage on a piece of property that's being foreclosed,
they go up and pay the taxes right away.
They'll try not to take the title. They'll try to keep the mortgage on. You see? Because they don't want the liability of the maintenance of the property and what have you, the insurance and all that. But they're still subject to paying the taxes. And the land court is compelled to have them pay the taxes. So when it does go to land court, the banks do pay unless they satisfy the tax and take it over.
Right.
But they're compelled to pay the tax anyway.
Well, they're supposed to, according to the law. I mean, the law is something that's not being enforced, and I don't understand why the judges aren't enforcing this particular law.
Well, it's because they're politically corrupt. You know, they're politically corrupt. They're politically corrupt.
The question is, do they own any part of these banking firms?
Of course the judges own interest in shares in banks, and so do the lawyers, and probably the assessors, and probably the mayor, and probably the city council, and probably the governor. Of course. But you have to go to the ethics commission, and you have to pay to find out from the public record, to get a copy of what their conflicts are. That's what you have to do. Well, the people have a right to do it.
This stuff is actually supposed to be given freely through the Freedom of Information Act, isn't it? This is something that
buy one, get one, something for nothing. You don't get anything for nothing.
Not from them, we don't.
Listen, that's a consumer fraud in itself. Buy one, get one. That's a joke, right? Come on, you all know that regular price is not regular price. And nobody's going to give you one for nothing. If they put their hand in their pocket and steal something from you, they might come back and get one free. Let's face reality. The people are disorganized, diseducated. They can't help it. They're so bewildered by the agenda that these people sit in contorting the rules and the laws, that the people are told, you don't understand. You just don't understand it.
And they want to take care of everything for you, and they're going to be here to help you while they put their hands in your pocket and take everything you have. That's what they've been doing. These people, they are very well organized in their acts. They know exactly what they're doing.
Well, a lot of people just can't defend themselves anyway.
They've been conditioned.
Well, they got to go to work. They haven't got enough money to make things meet. They're afraid, that they're not going to win. The system's in the bag. They don't realize they have to have unity. They have to join a class action suit. That's what we're here for. Reality.
they're so busy trying to keep up with all these extra taxes that they've been incurring that they turned around and they're working double shifts, double jobs in order to pay these bills that they're not supposed to be paying, that they can't even think about why they're paying them.
They better think about
They're
it.
just caught up in it.
I mean, they can be so expert at other things, you know? They can be so expert at other things, they can't protect their own right. There's something wrong with them. If they can't do that, then they're not going to be in the class action. They're not going to get anything. It's only the people that are going to be intelligent and going to see the light that are going to get any money. Because if they don't join in, the court will say, huh,
They didn't ask for
they
it.
don't not entitled to anything unless they say they're entitled to it.
That's right. And the paperwork that we have, the motion to join and the affidavit, are going to be very simple. You fill in your names, you put in your address, and you state your damage, and you verify that through the affidavit. It's very simple, and it's easy to put in, and once you get it in, you're all set. You don't have to worry about anything else. We're either going to be acting pro se, and everybody will go into court and make their claim verbally to the court, or if we're lucky enough to have an attorney who's smart enough to see that there's a lot to be had here to protect the people's rights, then we will probably get proceedings a lot faster.
The only thing is, there aren't, you know, lawyers are afraid.
Well, they're
I mean,
going
they have
against
to-
the grain now.
Well, of course, this may be good for some lawyer that wants to get out of the filthy business, right, that he's in, and say that I can represent these people and get 1/3 of $1 trillion or something. Then I can be honest all my life.
You make amends with his maker.
He can write a book about it, make a movie. How I made $1 million.
Or more.
Now, I'd like to get one more call if we get one more call. That woman was very inspiring, though.
Well,
She was sincere.
she wanted to know how she was cheated.
She'll learn, too. She's gonna, I don't think she liked what she heard. She didn't like the idea that, you know,
Well, I hope
even her
she's-
mother and father.
I hope she pursues the claim.
Well, we'll see. And that's what, we'll keep going. That's all there is to it. We'll be here on and on. We'll keep going. When I come out of Suffolk County, and we've got a campaign, a mailing list going out, we're going to try to contact everybody that's being foreclosed. You see, those people there,
They're in dire straits.
they're going to have to become homeless. But that's going to take a little money and a little time. But this is not going away. So we'll do it right. We'll do it by the numbers. We'll do it right. This was the first introduction. You know, it's a bad night. It's cable television. It isn't NBC, ABC.
It's local.
It hasn't been publicized, but it'll grow. Well, I think that next week we could re-emphasize this, and then we could deal with unethical ethics. You know, and tell the truth the way it is. If anybody wants to join in the suit, they can dial that number, 413-663-6372.
And we'll see what we can do about getting you copies of the complaint, which is pretty much finished up. We just got a few more things to do to it.
Okay.
And we'll get you a copy of motion to join and the affidavit.
Is there anything we left out?
I don't believe so.
Did we cover everything?
I think we covered pretty much everything as far as the concept of what we're trying to do here is to stop the banks and the assessors from having us falsely taxed on our debts, and to inform the people that they all have a right to make a claim if they have mortgages or if they had a mortgage.
Yeah.
So I believe that we pretty much covered that part of the issue. Not to mention that if the people want to stop the assessors from assessing them right away, you have to inform the assessor not to assess you on the bank's interest and to assess the bank.
Well, that's a provision on the 5912. We'll inform them of that. We'll tell them, you know, this is give them notice. But they mustn't be afraid, because once they do this, they can stop them in their tracks. They could stay there for 25 years probably. And I bet someone wouldn't even have to pay their taxes or
Or the mortgage.
or the mortgage. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Oh, gone.
Hello?
Lost it. Well, maybe they'll call right back. I'll do the switch for you.
Oh, I
Call
see.
right back.
Well, call right back, because we don't have too much time. We lost you. Call right back. I didn't know there was a phone on there, a phone call. I'm sorry we lost you. We wanted your calls, no matter who it is. If it's a necessity, you want to tell me that I'm wrong, go ahead. Let me hear it. You're a lawyer, you think you know the law differently? Go ahead, call up. You're a judge, you want to teach me something? Go ahead, teach me something. You're someone that wants to know what your rights are? I'll have you read them. And they can tell you that you don't understand. After you read it, let them read it. So if anybody wants to call in.
Okay, so we have the caller back.
All right.
Ready to go on?
Yeah.
Okay, hello?
Hello?
Yes.
I just caught the end of the program here, and I wanted to see what was going on.
Well, what's going on is, it appears that the assessors have been taxing us on our debts on our home property ownership, where the estate interest of the bank is the amount of the mortgage, and the law requires the assessor to tax the estate interest of the mortgagee, which is the bank, prior to assessing the remainder to the mortgagor, which is the owner of the home. And what's happening is we're being robbed by being charged for taxes on our debts. And we're filing a class action suit to make them give us back our losses.
All right. Did you understand what he said?
Not fully, no.
All right, it's very simple. Under the Constitution, you're only obligated, and they can only tax you on your estate interest. They can't tax you on your indebtedness. All right?
Okay.
The Constitution is the public policy. That's the rule by law. Now, the statute, in order to enforce that, tells the assessors what they shall do in taxing the property. First, they have to determine what the estate interest that you may have and that the bank may have. Because under the law, Chapter 59, Section 12, which we had on the screen, they could show it now if they want to, if we can get it on there.
No,
we only have 1 minute, but let me read it to you. If any person has an interest in real estate not exempt from taxation under Section 5, which is tax-exempt property, as holder of a duly recorded mortgage given to secure the payment of a fixed certain amount, sum of money, the amount of his interest as mortgagee shall be assessed as real estate in the town where the land lies, and the mortgagor shall be assessed only for the value of such real estate after deducting the assessed value of the interest therein of the mortgagee.
Okay.
Meaning that if the mortgage, we're going to wrap it up, if the mortgage was $100,000, you only have to pay the balance. Now, you want further information, call 663-6372, or listen to the program again Sunday at 7 p.m., and the law will be up there. You could read it, and you'll get a recap of the whole program, and you could join in.
Okay, so you're going to be back on again?
Yes.
Sunday at 7 o'clock,
Okay.
not live, but you'll call us.
All righty.
And next Monday.
You make a lot of money for yourself.
Okay.
Thanks
Thank you
for
very
calling.
much.
You'll make a lot of money.
I hope so.
You'll pay off your mortgage.